Children don't need two parents. They certainly do not.
My name is Maddie. Welcome to my project. I was alienated from my dad for 20 years. I figured out the truth last year. Ever since then, I've been speaking out about this form of abuse. Parental alienation is when one parent, usually during a custody dispute or a divorce, uses coercive control to manipulate their child into rejecting their other loving parent without true justification. Recently, a lot of you guys have been telling me the news going on in the community, and I love when you guys do this, and a lot of the same topics come up. One of the new things that people seem to be doing out here is this new term called protective parent. Somebody sent me this video. I have not watched it yet. I'm reacting completely blindly, have not watched the video, but I think this video is going to touch on that, the protective parent. Let's check it out together. Let's go.
Hi, everyone. Today I thought I'd talk a little bit about this concept of parental alienation. When this first happened to me, I've told everyone who's listening to my YouTube channel that I'm a protective parent, that I'm a survivor of domestic abuse. It was coercive control. It was beyond the violent incident model. It was this idea of really harming someone psychologically and legally and financially, and use of the children as weapons. Absolutely.
Okay, so it sounds like she considers herself a victim of domestic abuse and to be the protective parent. I hope she goes on to explain what protective parent means.
So when this happened to me, I immediately went to the concept of parental alienation. And so I read up on all of the research regarding parental alienation. Actually began my doctoral work doing some research on some major players in the field. And I want to be really clear. The word alienation works nicely. And sadly, it works nicely for us. It reaffirms that there has been this taking away of what actually is ours. And so I want to reaffirm that for everyone. No one is saying that that hasn't occurred. The problem is the term. It's weaponized all too often.
Let's go back a few years. Does anybody remember the Me Too movement? Anybody? That was weaponized. A lot of women claimed that they were sexually abused, and they weren't. That doesn't make sexual abuse not real. Doesn't make sexual abuse pseudoscience. And I've said this before, I'll say it again. Sometimes I feel like I'm just banging my head against the wall. If you come up with a new term, they're gonna start exploiting that term. Anyone can exploit anything, and no one's thinking about this from the child's point of view, except the children who've been through it. I have actually created the first support group in the United States for former alienated children. Everybody in the support group who's been through this as a child said that they were able to figure it out because the term parental alienation resonated with them. Domestic abuse by proxy, that term would not have resonated with us. And I can say that because I've spoken to everybody about this and they all agree. Parental alienation resonates with the kids who need to figure this out. Adult children who've been through this, please leave in the comments. Did the term parental alienation help you figure out the abuse you have been experiencing? Because for me, and so far everybody in the support group I've created, that's how we figured it out. The term itself resonates. And so people can argue in court and you can change the term, but I guarantee you next month people are going to be exploiting the new term. The term itself is not the problem.
What's happened in the field is that fathers' rights initiatives have really come into play to use the term in a way to further harm protective parent.
Because God forbid that fathers have rights. Why do people even have a negative view of fathers' rights? Honestly, I don't even know why that's controversial. Because dads do have less rights in family court. They have less rights when it comes to custody. The pendulum has swung too far and it needs to be, brought back to the center. Now, before I get angry people in the comments, I have to say, I know unfortunate things have happened in court where certain individuals have taken advantage of the fact that parental alienation, this type of abuse exists, and exploited it in court, or claimed that they're going through parental alienation when they're really justifiably being kept from their child. I am not saying that doesn't happen. Please hear me say this. I am not saying that doesn't happen. What I'm saying is that if this is the amount of targeted parents and kids in the United States who are going through parental alienation, then that is the amount, that tiny bit is the amount of people who are falsely claiming parental alienation. Let's break it down to like an elementary level. Why would people not want to use the term parental alienation when that's the term we've been using for 30 years for this abuse? I think there are two reasons, personally. I think number one, profit. Money. People will lose money. They will lose their job. The divorce industry, the custody industry, the family court industry will come crashing down. And number two, I think that's being done by alienators. People who want to cover their tracks and deny this abuse exists because they themselves are abusers. It's just my 2 cents. Take it or leave it. Let's get back to the video.
So if I'm a coercive controller, I am trying to retain power and control over you. If I'm trying to do this, then what's the best way? Well, we know this. I always say that revenge at all costs, right? So I am going to do what Dr. Evan Stark, he calls children secondary victims, not because their victimization is not actually like harmful, but because that's actually not what the coercive controller is interested in. The coercive controller is interested in harming the adult victim and uses the children, weaponizes the children to do that. And so they become soldiers in a war, and the war is against you. And so when they are indoctrinated, brainwashed, when all of this gaslighting of a false narrative is happening to them, they, of course, are alienated from you, right? So I want to reaffirm that for you. But really what's going on is a fracturing of their attachment to you. That's really what's going on.
It's like she almost gets there, but not quite. She gets the point that it's spousal abuse or post-separation abuse. She gets that point, that they're using the child to weaponize them and hurt the ex. She understands that, but what she's missing is the second reason why alienators do this, and that's to isolate the child. It is abuse on the child. It is severe abuse on the child. It is much, much more than just the fracturing of a relationship. I promise you that.
And, there's a lot of words out there now that are used, but I'm going to come back from a clinical perspective and say that someone is trying really hard. I want to be clear. These people show up as wonderful parents. These people show up as loving partners.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
In many ways, they show up successful in their careers, or maybe not so successful in their careers. There's a variety of ways they show up. They're charlatans. They're not real human beings who have true feelings and emotions. They are covering their feelings and emotions with shame. Our children are just objects to them. Our children do not really matter to them. And so you see, it's kind of like, soldiers in a war. I'm just going to use this person to win. That's what I'm going to do. And so when we use the term parental alienation, I think there's a couple things going on. First of all, we're reaffirming where it came from, which it came from a very, unfortunately, unhealthy man who actually minimized child sexual abuse.
She's talking about Richard Gardner. I haven't been able to find truth about Richard Gardner and the claims that he's a terrible man, one way or the other. If somebody could provide me with legitimate proof, I'd be happy to see it. But again, this is an ad hominem attack on Richard Gardner. Just because Richard Gardner is Richard Gardner doesn't mean that the term should be different. I will go back to this example. I've used it in the past. The term gender dysphoria, for example, was coined by an actually horrific man named Dr. Money, who was a Pluto, and he sexually abused his patients, his young male patients. But nobody says that gender dysphoria should be changed to a different term because of its origins. Dr. Money is an absolute pile of trash. pile of trash person. If there's anybody I've heard of in this lifetime that is disgusting, a degenerate, and a harm to children everywhere, it's Dr. Money, who came up with the term gender dysphoria. But I have not heard one criticism that we should get rid of the term or change the term or not use the term because of that disgusting man. Ad hominem attacks aren't going to work here.
Used it against protective mothers who were trying to protect their children from sexual abuse. That's number one. Number two, there's a whole world of people who are using it to affirm fathers' rights. And so a good father certainly deserves time with his children. But if someone has been abusive, even covertly, as in coercive control, then that person really, children don't need two parents. They certainly do not.
Okay, then. Children don't need two parents. I think that encompasses everything wrong with people who are against fathers' rights.
So how do we help children in these circumstances? Well, first of all, we really want to look at attachment. And so what's happened with the foundation? What was the foundation of the parenting relationship? And is there one person who exerted power and control over another? And in that, they're using the children. This is what therapists need to be looking at. This is what court professionals need to be looking at, is what was the foundation of that relationship? Who was the protective parent all along? Who was?
I still don't understand the protective parent term. Leave in the comments if you know what she's talking about. What is this protective parent? Usually both parents are protective. Being a protective parent is called being a parent. You need to protect your kids. That's part of being a parent. This is so dumb.
The person who was mostly engaged in child care and child development and all of those things. Oftentimes it's not shared before there's a separation or divorce.
She's wrong. She's wrong. I know what she's doing here. She's trying to say that women are usually the protective parents because they stay at home, do the child care, do the home care, whatever it is. She's wrong. That is not in the best interest of the child.
Or that child. Who is that? And is that person they're attached to? Is that person healthy? Or has that person been attempting to fracture their attachment with their primary caretaker? I call it malicious fracturing of attachment. I say it starts with day one. These people show up a certain way, but they're consistently, persistently ensuring they have power over another parent. That's what that is.
She's so smart that she's going to make up her own terms. And I guess we just all have to concede and just stop using the terms that are already there because she has an education. I don't know.
So there is a lot of a really amazing long-term research out there done by these people who have researched parental alienation. And I get that it is affirming. I get that it feels like someone is hearing you.
It's research. It's scientifically backed. It's sound research. What is she trying to say here? If you don't think the research is sound, let's talk about it. Can you point out why you believe that? Can you take me through the individual studies and point out to me what's wrong with it?
I'm asking you to just think about the fact that that research is based on someone who said that mothers who claimed sexual abuse of their children were hysterical and jealous, and rather than understanding where it comes from. And so
you got to be kidding me, right? Richard Gardner was not the first person to talk about this abuse or study this abuse. He simply came up with a term. There were other researchers during the time of Richard Gardner who were also studying this abuse. He just happened to come up with a term. This is not Richard Gardner's project. This is not Richard Gardner's wheelhouse. There have been many, many researchers since then. Dr. Burnett, Dr. Amy Baker, Dr. Jennifer Harmon. I could go on. And this ad hominem attack is not going to fly anymore. If you think that parental alienation is bogus or pseudoscience because of this man, Richard Gardner, I challenge you to question your beliefs.
And knowing that now there are rights of fathers that are using it against protected parents and winning at a very...
She says that fathers are using parental alienation against protective parents. And I don't think she realizes that she just gave herself away there. She's obviously just saying that fathers are using it against mothers. This proves that she thinks that protective parents are mothers, which is just absurd. It's really biased. It's really sad. And most of all of this stuff that she's saying is what is being talked about in family court right now. There's nobody like me who's from the child's point of view standing up in family court and pushing back against this. Scary.
So let's really look at the foundational dynamics of that parenting relationship, of that partnership between the parents, and really unpack that to truly understand what's happening to children. From a clinical perspective, it's all about fracturing their attachment. And the sad part is, and I talk about this when I talk about betrayal trauma, is that they are betrayed by that coercively controlling parent. They are betrayed by that parent because they know they can't be authentic. They know they can't be themselves. They know they're not loved.
This is why I'm so confused by this video, because some of the stuff she says, I'm like, yeah, that's right. But then she twists it. Like, she just twists it. It's like she's almost there, but then she twists it.
But then they're being told that that protective parent doesn't love them unconditionally, that that protective parent doesn't accept them authentically. And they get into a narrative that you don't love me, you don't care about me, or you think I'm dumb, or you like my sibling more than me, when actually that's all along the course of control that was doing.
See what I'm saying here? That's what happened to me. That's parental alienation. By her definition, my dad would be the protective parent. So is she trying to replace targeted parent by protective parent? I'm just really confused.
Triangulation. And yes, I tear up about it because it is so harmful to the developing brain. And nobody is recognizing this covert abuse. And I would say that covert abuse, the foundation of it, is fracturing the attachment that a child needs to their most protective, loving, healthy parent.
She says that nobody's identifying it, but they are. It's people trying to get rid of the term who are making it so we can't identify it.
Children are resilient. They can overcome it. It does take time. And the best way to help them is to continually show up in a way that they see us in a position of personal power and that we don't explain ourselves. And I'll talk about that in another video. So I hope that that's helpful. I hope that that's reaffirming. You aren't alone. I was there and I saw it as, and it is an alienation, but that term only emboldens abusers, sadly.
No, it's not black and white. It does not only embolden abusers, because that term allowed me to learn the truth 2 years ago now and break free, create a wonderful life for myself, speak out, and help others. That term has allowed not just me, hundreds of other people to figure out that they were manipulated and brainwashed by their one parent against their other loving parent. If we focus on the kids, then you will make that term more recognizable, more widespread in society. If you truly care about the best interests of the kids going through this abuse, you will make it so that term is a household term and that everybody or most people will recognize alienation or alienating behaviors when they happen. And people who do alienate will be shamed, and you can educate them on why they are harming their child and why it's imperative that they stop. Okay, that was a weird video. I'm not really sure what to take from that video, except that I have an impression of word salad right now. I can't even tell you in one sentence what the thesis of that video was. I really am not clearer on what the protective parent is. Also, shouldn't both parents be protective? As a parent myself, I know that it's kind of within your DNA as a parent to protect your kids. It's not a gendered thing. Fathers protect their children in different ways than mothers protect their children. There's not a wrong or right way. Please let me know in the comments what the heck you think about this video. Does this video resonate with you? Are you confused? Are you as confused as I am? I just think we should keep it simple. I think we should make it harder for exploiters to exploit the term. I think we need to make it easier to identify clear cases of parental alienation. I think that we need to take back the term, especially children who've been through it, who've grown up to realize this isn't okay. Let's take back the term. Because I think that if you do a Google search and you're trying to figure out what the heck has happened to me, you're not going to find any helpful information by Google searching protective parent or domestic abuse by proxy or whatever it may be. Thanks for watching this video. Sorry again about the quality of my voice. I hope that you enjoyed this or found something insightful or helpful. If you haven't watched my college campaign yet, go ahead and check that out. Really excited to do the next one coming up in February. If you like what I'm doing here with the Anti-Alienation Project, please give it this video a thumbs up to boost it in the algorithm. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. Make sure that you click the bell so that you get notified every time I do a new video. That's all for this video. I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.